Hello, this is Dr. Kamani, licensed clinical psychologist. Thank you for tuning in. You are here for Black women in toxic jobs. Do I stay or do I leave that toxic job? So, we are going to have a discussion with our two guests. I'm going to try to stay out in terms of my opinion because if you watch my YouTube channels, you know where I've been and what I've decided to do with my previous toxic job. Okay. So if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do so. Lifting Us with Time Consulting, Wellness Services, where our focus on helping support Black women heal and leave toxic jobs. Okay. So I'm going to have my panelists introduce themselves. We're going to get right into the conversation. If you have comments as you are watching this, please put in the chat section and I will try my best to really attend to the chat as well. Okay, so I will start with Colette Elizabeth. If you have not already seen her channel, she has a fabulous YouTube channel as well. We refer to each other as the Harriets in relation to helping Black women leave toxic jobs. So Colette, if you can introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Colette Elizabeth. I am a retired program manager, civil servant of almost 30 years. And currently I am doing some leadership development projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Colette. And then my Spelman sister, Dr. Monica Cox.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Yes, I'm Dr. Monica Cox. I'm a professor by day. I'm also an entrepreneur who is working in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And I have trademarked a brand called Stop Playing Diversity to address some of the workplace issues that are happening that are very performative and need to stop. I'll leave it at that.
Yes. Okay. So we're going to get right into the conversation. And again, I will try to leave my biases aside if I can. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'll see if I can. Okay. So I will start. And let me just tell you, this conversation started because I'm friends with both of them, right? And we've had separate conversations offline about toxic jobs and our decisions. And, I want to really respect that some people are not ready to leave a toxic job, or they don't want to leave a toxic job, or they're staying for different reasons. And I feel like my YouTube channel has focused only or more so on Black women who want to leave toxic jobs, okay, and the healing journey. But I do want to give space for Black women who want to stay at a toxic job or they're staying for a certain reason. So I'm going to kick it off with what has been the decision-making process for you both in terms of deciding to stay or deciding to leave a toxic job. So I'll start with Dr. Monica Cox because she has decided to stay. So I'll start with you. What is the decision-making process or the things that you kind of considered in terms of your decision to stay?
Okay. Can I just be real? We're going to have a real discussion tonight, right? When I hear you say that, like, why are you still in that hellhole? Could you tell me? I mean, it's like
is that what you heard?
It's like that don't feel that sounds really terrible. So why am I still there? I would say that I deserve to be in this space. And so this is going to really push the envelope. So I'm in academia and I've worked a long time to be in a very specialized field. So I'm in engineering education, and there are maybe as of 2018, 0.3% of Black women who reach my my level.
Wow.
And whenever you get to that level, that's when you have access to be in the room. And so I could tell you, I've been in a lot of rooms where things could have gone really wrong, but I'm the person who says, we didn't follow the policies. We need to make sure that we are, practicing what we preach. And so I really do feel that I say a lot about the Stop Playing Diversity message when I'm in these rooms, but they're rooms no one else has been in. And there's just this sometimes moral obligation that says, when I told you I deserve to be in those rooms, it's the fact that I know what I'm saying. I know my rights. I know how to stand up for myself. And I do feel that at this point in my career, I have what it takes to say these systems are going to change. As long as I'm here, I'm going to raise hell. And you're gonna know I was here. And
Yes, you're gonna call them out from within.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. So it feels like a calling, but everyone is not called to be in this space. But I feel that there are some people who have to go and disrupt bit by bit to make sure
Mhm.
that the long-standing changes need to happen
Mhm.
while you're
Got
in
it.
the space. So
Got it.
I'll leave it
Got
there.
it. Okay, so you talked about you want to be there to call out policies, right? To make people accountable. You talked about allowing space, so you have a right to be there. And then you also talked about a moral obligation. Can you speak more about the moral obligation? I can't hear you, Monica. You're on mute.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sending you something in the
Okay.
chat also.
Okay.
Um, but you said the moral obligation.
Obligation. Uh-huh.
Um, I think that hold on. Um, so what I wanted to say about the moral obligation is that um, you know, for so often many of us have not been in these spaces.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for us to kind of know what it looks like to
Mm-hmm.
gauge and
Mm-hmm.
um, just I don't know. We don't have a blueprint. I often say this, many times we are the blueprint. And
Mm-hmm.
that means that we are establishing rules that have never been established. And so for me, the moral
Right.
obligation comes from that place of really having that voice and
Mm-hmm.
making sure that others don't go through what I went through.
Got it. Okay. Okay. And then what about you, Colette Elizabeth? What was the decision-making process that you went through in terms of deciding to leave a toxic job?
I think the initially I felt the same way that Dr. Cox felt. I'm going to answer it in two ways.
Mm-hmm.
Because of, I stayed longer than I think I should have because of um, the ideal that I felt that I needed to stay to protect the other employees who looked like me. Okay.
Hmm.
I was
Mm-hmm.
in rooms like Dr. Cox, probably not as high up, where I was the only person that called out things that were not correct. I was the
Right.
person who would say, um, hey, just because we as managers are able or can do something, it doesn't mean that we should do it. This is not consistent with uh, our policies, these practices that we're doing, they're not consistent with our espoused values. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
was that person. And there's a concept, I'm sure you guys have probably heard about it, decision making, six thinking hats. So I might have been the person with the black hat on. The black hat
Mm-hmm.
person is analytical and looks at the rules and looks at the procedures. And
Mm-hmm.
so though I did that, of
Mm-hmm.
course, a lot of it was based on the fact that I saw with my own eyes
Mm-hmm.
Black people not being considered for
Mm-hmm.
many of the high profile, um, for example, assignments that we may have, assignments that could lead to promotion. We
Yeah.
call them stretch assignments. Blacks weren't even considered. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, I was that voice in the room saying, hey,
Mm-hmm.
why isn't this person considered? This person
Mm-hmm.
has been here for X number of years. They've done
Mm-hmm.
this, this, and this, and
Mm-hmm.
ready to push back because, of course, a lot of the information that you get from folks who are trying to exclude folks, it's a
Mm-hmm.
template. It's not
Yeah.
new information, so you're always prepared, right? So
Yeah.
that's saying it on that side. On this, the thing that made me leave personally is I had grown tired. In
Mm.
addition to holding up and trying to ensure that staff and managers that reported to me and managers that reported to those managers, to ensure that they had a fair chance, I, in addition, was dealing with discrimination and racism.
Mm.
So I was like, hand up here and a hand down here, trying to pull and push. And
Yeah.
it became exhausting. And so when my health began to, manifest the things that and I didn't even understand it. I didn't
Mm.
understand what was going on with my body. I thought
Mm-hmm.
it was, oh, you're not doing A, B, C, and D, until one day somebody said, no, It's called stress.
Yeah.
I lived with it.
Stress can really, yes, it can have a number, do a number on you.
I lived with it so long that
Mm-hmm.
it was my normal, right? And
Mm.
honestly, I didn't realize in my body didn't really, your body adapts, right?
Right.
It gets to the point where it's like, listen, this is as far as I can take you with all of this. This is too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And so what I'll say to you is when my body, I had a knot the size of a tennis ball in my neck, and I
Mm.
couldn't turn my neck.
Mm.
I started having blinding headaches to where I couldn't
Mm.
see. And I'm a person who had never really had a headache in my life. I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
know it was a migraine, where I
Right.
could not see. So that was the determining factor, in addition to the fact that I was able to financially to do so because of a lifetime retirement and lifetime benefits for me and my girls. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. So the
I
financial consideration,
the
right?
financial
Yeah.
considerations were a part of it, if I'm
Yeah.
honest, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure if I did not have a lifetime pension, if I would have been able to make the decision that I made then. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And
Mm-hmm.
eventually, and I'll say this and I'll close, eventually it was my children that came to me. I was teleworking because of the pandemic that we were dealing with, and they were
Mm-hmm.
home. Both of them, were going to a good school, and they were home,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Mm-hmm.
heard me and they saw me, and they finally
Mm-hmm.
had an intervention and just said,
Right.
we need for you to quit.
Yeah.
And my oldest daughter stood over me as I put in my retirement paperwork and said, now hit enter. And I
Yeah.
was so scared. She said, hit enter, mommy. I hit enter,
Yeah.
and we did a little dance. And can I share with you, the day I hit enter, it wasn't even my last day, but the day I hit enter, I stopped having headaches.
Mm.
I stopped having headaches,
Mm-hmm.
and my blood pressure and everything I felt had gone down. So
Yeah.
those were my decision making processes. I had taken the group that I was there to protect, I felt, as far as I could take them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I
So
felt
you
that
had helped them, but you also recognized the toll that the job was having on you. So you said, I had to step back. So what's interesting for both of you is that both of you have a commitment to helping other people and to advocating for the voice of Black people as well in rooms that we are typically not in, and calling out racism where we see it. And a lot of times we see it in the workplace. So what's interesting about both of you is that you have gone about it in different ways, right? So when we think about your experiences and even I would say the emotional process. So Colette, Elizabeth, you talked about something that's important that a lot of Black women talk about is sometimes they stay at toxic jobs because of the financial concerns. They're fearful of leaving because of, well, I'll be able to pay my bills, right? So we acknowledge that finance is a big part of it. So I don't want to discount that at all. I want to also focus on what has been the emotional impact, right? So when we think about fear of leaving, is there a fear of staying too? I'm curious, Dr. Cox. Was there any fears involved with staying there? Any fears in any relation to that?
Oh, this is really complex because I feel like I often tell people I saw these two paths. And
Mm-hmm.
one is that I knew I came to this environment to specifically be in this administrative position. So my husband moved, like it was a move for my family. My husband gave up a faculty position to come here.
Mm,
So we believe this was a right move for my family. So it wasn't just me, it was
yeah.
both of us. And now my in-laws also live here. And so there was a
Mm,
big thing about this not just being about me.
yeah.
And I had to think about this holistically. And, when I got to a moment where I was on a Twitter space at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about toxic jobs, similar to what you're talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
one person said, there are a lot of things that go on in the workplace, but many times people leave, and the people who come after don't know how bad places are. And so they
Mm,
start over again. And
mm-hmm.
so my plan, believe it or not, because I am this person, I said I wanted to be a university president. And then I started getting messages on social media about like people saying that my words kept them going. They kept
Yeah.
saying that my sharing my story actually helped them. And I began to dig deeper, and I was like, what if part of my mission is to really figure out the inner workings of this system and use this for my business. And so it also,
Mm,
as a researcher, it also kind of became a case study. And
mm,
I was getting weekly therapy to process what was going on, because I was still at a place where I could not process it. So I
yeah.
did have, of course, I will say, the benefit as a professor to have a special assignment and be away, but still get paid. And then
Mm-hmm.
summer came. I'm a 9-month employee too. And so
Mm,
I didn't have to be in that space during the summer.
yeah.
And so I'm also able, and I had a mentor who was telling me too, if I could kind of say the cheat code, if somebody's going to pay me and I don't have to physically go into an office, I'm going to get, my money,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to learn and build my business as I'm getting paid in that
Mm-hmm.
environment. And so one thing I want to say, even as I'm kind of all over the place, is that I don't think I'm going to be there forever. But at
Mm,
this moment, I am going to learn as much, build as much, have what I need, so that when
mm-hmm.
I leave, it's going to also give me the credibility of being this researcher, but someone who has now gotten clients who can go off and do this work as well. And so there's a method to the madness, there's a
Yeah.
strategy, but understand that I have protected myself and put a lot of things in place so that I
Mm,
am very transactional in the
yeah.
work environment, and people know that
Yeah.
I'm not going to be played. Like, we see each other, we know what's up,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
kind of like it's a little tense sometimes, but I
Uh-huh.
will straight up be in a meeting and say, nope, that's not
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
this,
I think what's helpful, yeah, I think what's helpful too is that you said that you have set some parameters, right? So if you don't have to go in the office, you're not going to go into the
absolutely,
office. You have supportive therapy. You have
right,
these mechanisms in place to help protect you in some ways, right?
absolutely.
But what's interesting too is that you have not, so, I think a lot of times that I've encountered with Black women in toxic jobs
Mhm.
is that if they decide to stay, what they've talked about is a degree of self-loathing, that they are angry with themselves. Like,
Right.
how, I stayed at this place and I allowed them to talk to me like this, or I stayed at the place and I didn't say what I wanted to say, or I stayed at this place and I feel like I'm masking and I'm not being my true self. And that's the part that we see with the self-loathing. But what you're saying, Dr. Cox, is that you are your full self, right? So
Yeah.
you are there. And tell the story that you told me the other day about The Office. Are you able to tell that story?
I don't
The
know what
office
to
you're
say.
in?
I have so many stories.
The
It's
office
almost
you
a
have, and you
joke,
were playing Drake, and the,
baby.
the symbolism of being in that office that you're in now.
Am I allowed to say this? Yes, I am. Oh yes. So um so when I was no longer a chair, I had a chance to select which office I wanted in the department. So I moved in the building next door, and this was an office that one of the people who opposed my leadership at the time had. And I was told that this was also the office where people congregated to talk trash about me. And so, I'm about to just be totally me when I say this, but I'm like, baby, when I go to work, I have on my Pandora, I play Afro beats, I play Drake with my door open. Like, it's right there on the corner, and it's what I do. And it's not that I'm trying to be rebellious or anything like that. It's the fact
Mhm.
that, like, I am really able to do my job but show up as I need to. I do not code switch. I do not put
Mhm.
the mask on. Like, you get the full hair with the
Mhm.
color. Um, I'm just me. And
Yeah.
I just don't feel the need to apologize at work, or to be like,
Mhm.
oh, I have
Mhm.
to be quiet, or oh, I have to close my door, or oh, I can't let people, hear me. I mean, I'm not out there like it's the club. Like, there still is, can we talk about a
Right.
still,
Right.
still some sense?
Yes.
Still
Yes.
not at
Yes.
the house,
Yes.
but I keep
But
it
you don't
real.
shirk, right? And I'm
Exactly.
curious, Monica, because some people might be watching this right now, and
Mhm.
they might wonder, how can you do that? Like how like what is it within you
Mm,
that allows you to do that? Because some people might think it, but
yeah.
they're too scared to show their full self. So what is it within you that it's like, I'm gonna show my full self?
I'm not bound by those people at work. Also, the meager raise that I get, I can make more than like in half a day than what they can give me. So it's almost like I'm there and I do my
Mhm.
job and I know how to
Mhm.
do my job, but at the
Mhm.
same time, um, I'm not fearful
Yeah.
physically in that
Yeah.
space. And so
Yeah.
the thing is, if someone wants to complain about my music, I'm going to complain about how we don't address things at work. Like I
Okay.
have a response to say,
Yes.
yes, you could point this out, but
Yes.
please allow me to point out the two other things that were not appropriate at work too. And we're going to
Yeah.
have a conversation also. So it's almost me saying, I'm fine with having a conversation about your definition of professionalism, but I also know that professionalism is making sure that I don't feel unsafe at work. And so we're going to
Mm.
have that on the agenda when we talk about things too. And so it's
Right.
really understanding, like it's a mental space.
Absolutely. It's like
Like,
mental chess.
this is the contract. I
Mhm.
expect all of these things. And until
Mhm.
I see them,
Mhm.
don't check me, boo. Don't come for me.
Right. Don't try because I got something for you. Now,
Absolutely.
the thing too is that, Dr. Cox, they might try to challenge you,
Oh, they will.
but you're still doing very well. Weren't you identified like faculty or mentor of the year or something like that?
Yes, they created an award for my work. So I was shocked because yes, someone asked me to create a program in our college, and so I supervised several postdocs. I think there were like 6 or 7 of them. They all got
Mhm.
together, nominated me for an award that I wasn't aware of, and the people said that they didn't actually have an award that fit the criteria, so they created one last year.
Wow. Wow. So I
Yeah,
just want to the reason I wanted you to share that is
yeah.
that I want us to be clear when we talk about these toxic jobs, that many times Black women in these toxic jobs, we are excelling. Like,
Mhm.
no matter, we're going through all this toxic stuff and we are still on top of our game, right? So that shows you how like dope we are. Okay. So
Mhm.
Colette Elizabeth, can you share from the perspective of someone who decided to leave a toxic job? What was your process in relation to, was there any fear involved with you deciding to leave, and how did you address the fear?
I think that I had been dealing with so much for so long that I just didn't care. You know what I
Mm,
mean? I had gotten to a point when Dr. Cox was talking about her hair. My hair used to be was long, and
mhm.
it had fallen. I had a bowl, so the middle was gone from stress.
Oh,
But the this part was. You remember like uh the Three Stooges, the curly, the one that had that's literally how my hair was. Okay, so
wow.
I cut it all off. I cut my hair off really, really short.
Mm,
And I wore
mhm,
a tiny afro,
mm,
for a couple years.
mhm.
And I had so many Black women come to me and say, I just love that you just rocking it. Now they didn't know why I was rocking it. We do
Right.
what we got to do. We get
Yes.
lemons, we may make lemon cake, lemon meringue pie sometimes.
Right.
We do what we do and we make it look good, right?
Yes.
And so there was a time where, you know, we were told in the space that I worked at by other Black women what was considered professional as far as hair is concerned, and how I wore my hair really was not considered professional according
Oh,
to what they didn't tell me this by the time I had done this, and it didn't matter
uh-huh.
because it was what it was.
Yeah.
But I had gotten to a point where it just didn't matter. They had done everything
Mm,
they could do. They had blackballed me. They had
mm,
taken credit for things I had created. When
mhm,
Dr. Cox was talking about an award, I remember I had one for a position, and it was the same level that I was at, the same
mhm,
exact level. It wasn't a
mhm,
promotion, it was going to be a lateral. They
mhm.
gave it to a non-Black, non-Caucasian girl, cited that she was in this organization. It's a huge organization where I worked,
Mhm,
and how
mhm.
she was in this huge, how she was in the organization, a member, an active member. I competed against her. I was the state president of the
Wow.
organization and
Wow.
had just won the highest award, merit award at the state level, and at the same then the month after won it at the international level, meaning all of these
Wow.
not even international. Yeah, it was all over the world. So I had the highest that you could possibly get competing against the same person. So like you said, we go through this stuff and we still do what we do, and we're excelling because most of us, let's be really, really clear about it. If we were not absolutely fabulous and excellent, we wouldn't even be in these rooms to begin with. We wouldn't even have a job. Most of us are triple.
We wouldn't have had a seat at the table at all.
We triple, quadruple overqualified. Let's just be clear. Okay.
Right.
So you had asked me about my process and did I have any fear? What I'll say is the only concern, and I won't call it a real fear, it was a concern. I have 2 daughters in college. What am I going to do? I'm a single parent. I'm a divorced parent. What am I going to do? You know? And my girls said, you know, during the intervention, they said, we fine. They sat me down and told me we're fine. And it had gotten to the point where I just didn't care. You know, if I saw racism, I just called it out at the meeting and said, hey, I'm calling this out. I'm writing it down. I'm elevating it. Your names will be on it. I'll CC you in my complaint. I even went to our legislators on a lot of it. I said, and I'll CC you on it. I'm putting you on notice. This is what's happening. And then I said, we're going to continue to do this until you change.
Yeah.
Because you're going to stop having all these policies and these procedures, and then your practice is not in alignment with that. While I'm in the room, you're going to stop doing that. You know? And because I had been, you know, I feel like I didn't have nothing to lose.
Right. I was going to say the same thing.
You had done everything. You already made sure I wouldn't get in the next level, which would have been a huge jump for me. You know, and one of the positions I didn't take because I didn't want to work with the person, you know, so all money ain't good money. The point I'm making is I had made a decision. Listen, I was afraid to go to sleep at night because I didn't think I would wake up.
Oh my gosh.
When you get to the point, you don't have nothing to lose.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
And your life is way more important than any job.
Exactly. So
when it gets to that point.
Yes. And the last thing I want to add, and I like that Dr. Cox brought this up, and I like to tell people this all the time. I utilize entrepreneurship skills. So every job, every special assignment that I took that I didn't get paid for, oh, honey, yes, that's experience. You can't buy experience. And so that the stuff that I'm doing now, leadership development, okay, I'm relying on those skills that one, I have my master's and working on my PhD in, but it's stuff that I have practical skills in, and I know how it works practically. And I would tell people, in fact, they would quote me and say, yeah, listen to what Colette says. She collects skills. I did. They knew if it was a messy project, number one, I was going to take it so I get away from these ignorant folks. But number two, it helped me to hone my leadership skills. Yeah. Because I knew that when I left, I knew what I would be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're able to use the job to your benefit, knowing that you're leaving, right? So to help you pivot and to leave. And I said I wasn't going to stay out of it, but I couldn't help myself. So when you talked about, you know, it was nothing else that you could do to me, right? So I felt the same way at the toxic job that I was at. It was nothing else that you could do to me. You had already disrespected me, demoted me, you know, all the DDDs, whatever, you've done it all. So it's nothing else you can do for me. So I'm really going to speak up, right? So you are doing these things to silence me. It has the opposite effect. Okay. So as we think about Black women who might be watching this right now, right? So let's say a Black woman is watching this. She can't decide whether to stay or to go. What would you say to her? So Dr. Cox, what would you say to her?
Man, it's a lot. So let me just process this for a minute, because I was thinking as you and Colette were talking. You know what? You have to look at things holistically. And the reason I say it, I think I was on one episode and I really almost broke down because my mom passed last year, and I often talk about my mother. I talk about what's going on. And, you know, the season that I was in was very different. I mean, it was during the pandemic. It was the loss of my mom. It's having like a 4-year-old, just a lot of stuff. And I had to slow down for a minute because I had so many people relying on me. And I think I talked about my in-laws moving here. And my job actually gave me space. Even though we talk about the toxicity of it, there was a moment in that remote time where I was able to breathe. And that was the time when I really started moving into my business, when I had a chance to reflect and when I just really started getting myself together. And so I kind of feel there's that moment, if you have time, like I'm not saying if you have health issues or anything that you should not leave. I'm saying be very strategic. I remember just having a moment where I left the unit where I worked a surplus of $2.5 million as an entrepreneur, and they were in debt before I got there. And it was just like, I was just standing up and I said, you know what? If I could do that for an organization, I could do that for me.
Absolutely.
And you have to start, like, with me as an entrepreneur, it's that first little contract, and then you trying to get your infrastructure together. You trying to do stuff, and that takes time. You have to give yourself grace. You're not, maybe some people can get 2.5 million overnight. I hadn't gotten there yet. But you know what? I don't beat myself up as I say, you know what? I just got this amazing contract, and that's moving toward the 2.5 million. And so I go off in my bunny trails just to say this point is very strategic. It's like simmering. It's cooking for me. And because I can stay in an environment, I have the grace to stay in there, like physically, I'm cool. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be in there forever. And so every day I work my business. Every day I work plan. Every day I have my exit strategy going.
Yes.
That's what I mean. You can't just say I have a bad job and then don't do anything at 5 o'clock. I'm on, it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock here, and I'm talking to you and I'm doing stuff. But I now have like a chief technology officer who's doing stuff for me. I have a virtual assistant. I have some other people. I'm building the infrastructure.
Yes.
So you got to work while you out there saying you want to leave too. If you have to plan.
Yeah. So let me make sure I understand. So you're saying if a Black woman watching this now decides to stay at the toxic job, the hope is that she is looking through the curve. Like, once you leave, what are your next steps? And then put an exit plan in place and start executing the exit plan.
Yes. And learn. And I love what Colette was saying. You learn everything you can. You
learn those skills.
When you at the meetings, you got to think more strategically. You're at the meeting because you're learning the infrastructure. You're learning the system. You're looking at the templates. You are literally, you have your little notebook and you thinking, what am I going to do for my own business? And you know what you do too? I got the biggest trick of all. You don't put all your pearls out at the business.
No.
You don't be like, oh, I can solve that problem. Yeah, you can solve that problem, but guess what? You're going to solve it for yourself.
Exactly.
Keep your mouth hush about that. Let the grown folks who getting paid to do it and who think they know everything solve that problem, while you sit back and you like, yeah, I fulfilled that. That's the report I had to do, but that's it. That's what transactional is. You now think differently. You show up differently. You are there, but people don't see how you're moving.
Yeah. And you're getting something from it to prepare yourself to launch.
And you know what? You're figuring out who's going to be my assistant. Who am I going to be my business partner?
Yes.
Who do I need to do my accounting? Who isn't happy in the workplace? And how can I somehow draw them into my business?
Yes. And also I would say, because this is definitely something I learned, is when I create my business, or as I'm creating my business, what type of leader do I not want to be? This is an example of a toxic leader. This is the type of leader that I do not and I will not be. So it's also a way, like a negative model, right? So in terms of structuring our own business. So before I go to Colette, I'm curious about something, because this is the part I do not understand, Dr. Cox. What about Black women who might be watching this right now, and they are saying, I just want to stay there and ride it out to my retirement. I hate it every day. I dread it. I'm crying on my way to work. I'm crying when I leave work. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But I'm just going to stay to retirement because I got good benefits and I just want to make it to retirement. Or, I'll put so much time in that I don't want people to take credit for my work. What would you say to a woman who is of that perspective? So I've heard a lot of those women too. That expression.
I don't want me to get all spiritual on your professional podcast.
Please do. Please do.
Yeah. Because what? I gotta say this, baby, I would tell those ladies, baby, you gotta dig in deeper. because you only have one life to live, and you need to
Mm,
try and figure out what you need to do to reach that potential that you have. Because
mm,
there's more in
yeah.
you. Like that's you. That could be sadness talking. That could be, something else talking, depression.
Hmm.
I don't know what it is, but we are meant to thrive. And for
Yeah.
a season, you might be in that space of like, man, I don't know what my plan is, but
Hmm.
baby, you got more in you. Don't let that place get you down when you just like, oh, I'm crying, I'm upset. No, that mess has to be temporary because we were not
Yeah.
meant to live like that. Humans are
Yeah.
meant to go to work and cry and be upset and hold your head down. That's not living. That's not life
No.
at all. You were meant to
No.
you were not born to just pay bills and die. You
Right.
deserve to have some happiness too. So get you a place.
Exactly.
You know what? Hold it. Surround yourself with somebody who lift you up and be like, baby, like Colette said that her girls did. Be like, mama, you deserve better. You better you need to find some new friends. Look at a motivational video, speak some affirmations,
Go to therapy.
exactly whatever it is that you need to do to get you out of that funk, to say, you know
Yeah.
what, I might be here today, but I'm not going to be
Yeah.
here next week. I'm not going to be here in 6
Exactly.
months. I got a plan
Exactly.
and I'm moving
Exactly.
toward it.
Exactly. That so in essence, know that we deserve better. And I would even want to say, in honor of our ancestors who fought so hard for us to be here, we deserve so much better than to be disrespected. And a lot of these jobs, and Colette talks about this too, and I believe the same thing, at these plantation jobs, right? We deserve so much better than that. So we have to remember that and say, you know what, if I can't see through that, maybe I need to, like you said, pause, self-reflect, get the help I need, the support I need, and look at my community in terms of can they uplift me and helping me realize that I deserve better, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, yeah. So Colette Elizabeth, what about for you? What would you say to a Black woman who's watching right now and she is struggling with, and I think that's the worst feeling, is not knowing what to do. Like one hand you want to go, one hand you want to stay because of whatever, whatever. What would you say to a Black woman watching this right now and she doesn't know what to do?
I was listening to Dr. Cox talk, and I have friends who are in that situation now, and they talk to me and they ask me, how. I have a girlfriend now who she thought she feels the same way what you said. I have good benefits. I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
write it out, and she is right now. She's leaving in July.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's situation is so different. You know what I
Yep.
mean? That's why when I tell my story on my channel, I'm always sure to tell people I have a lifetime retirement. I have lifetime benefits that I don't pay for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
So I had one commenter say, you earned that. You should probably stop telling people that. And I say, no, I tell people that because I need them to understand that I had that and that impacted my ability and my decision making. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
very transparent. I know
Mm-hmm.
that I am in um a favorite position because my
Mm-hmm.
my pension that they get that I have, they don't have that anymore. Most
Right.
jobs don't have it, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
I'm always clear about that. So I would tell a Black woman, listen, think about the things that you are giving up that you will never get back. You will never
Mm-hmm.
get back your time. You will never get back
Mm-hmm.
your health. You will never
Mm-hmm.
get back the gains and things that you missed with, from being having a headache. That you can't go
Mm-hmm.
to your child's game. You can't go to
Mm-hmm.
the this and that. You will never get those things back. So
Right.
you need to decide. Is there another way that I can do what I need to do to survive? Okay,
Yeah.
at some point, you're not even at thriving that Dr. Cox talked about. You're at surviving, right? You're in
Right.
autopilot. So it's
Yeah.
not like you in a job that I'm happy to go to work. Can you do this somewhere else where you can
Yeah.
survive and think? Because, like you always say, Dr. Kamani, I believe what you say. I don't think you can heal and even think straight sometimes in a job where you are assaulted every day,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for 8 hours,
Mm-hmm.
And yes, even when I was
And
running.
even after, because you're carrying it with you after, right? So you think about it when you're going home, you're dreaming about it. You think about it the weekend, you're having
Yeah,
a Sunday night just
yeah.
disaster, thinking
Sunday
about going
nights,
back.
I was sick. On Sunday
Yeah.
night, every Sunday night, I was sick to my stomach. But
Yeah.
yes, you're right. And so I would say, think about the things that are important to you. Okay. Um, my children said that they wanted me to be around when they graduate, from master's
Mm,
degree, when they get married, when they have kids. The
yeah.
fact that they had to call the ambulance for me twice
Ooh,
because of, me having chest pains.
yeah.
911 thought I was having a stroke. That's how high my
Oh,
blood pressure was.
wow.
Those are things that made me say, listen, this trade-off is not a trade-off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would encourage Black women to think about, how do you write out what you want your life to look like right
Mm-hmm.
now. Write it out.
Mm-hmm.
It may come
Mm-hmm.
out raggedy. It may not, you may not have your punctuation in the right place. Just take some time to just write.
Mm-hmm.
And then look at where you are now. What
Mm-hmm.
little things can you do to
Yeah.
prepare to make your life the way you want it to be? Because you're one decision from
Yeah.
being on your way to living a life that you want to lead. That's number one. Number two, I would say, whatever you do,
Mm-hmm.
kind of walk in silence. Don't tell everybody what you're doing at the job. Like, for
Especially not your job. Please don't do it. Please don't
I
do it.
have some Black women, the people, when I left on a Friday or Thursday. They found out on that Friday or Thursday that was my last day. They
Mm.
said, "Oh, wait a minute. You don't want to. I don't want a party. I don't want a plaque. I don't want a gift card. I don't want anything." I
Yeah.
sent them an email, and the reason why I say that is because sometimes you have other Black women, and I love Black women, I do, but they're suffering and
Mm-hmm.
they don't want to let you go. I had
Mm-hmm.
somebody say, "I'm praying for you to change your mind," when I tried to leave before. So I didn't tell her no more because her prayers were
Good.
too good, right? I don't need
Yeah.
those kind of prayer. I'm in pain and
Yeah.
I'm thinking I may die. You know
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say? So that's what I would say,
Mm-hmm.
and then also start a little bit of your little hustle. Work
Mm-hmm.
on that a little
Side
bit
hustle.
while you're working. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
then the other thing I want to say, and I'm going to end it, is if you don't want to do anything, don't do anything. When I retired, the first year, I did absolutely nothing. Can I tell you,
Mm-hmm.
I slept and I ate. I napped
Mm.
and I ate all day, and I lost 38 pounds
Wow.
eating and sleeping. Blood pressure went down. Diabetes, A1C numbers went down. They're taking me off the medicine. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, your body will tell you, listen to your body. It's going to tell you what you're going to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's
So
all.
yeah, I just want to recap some of the things, and I want to go back to something that Dr. Cox said before too. So the sense of having discernment about who we tell. So Stephanie Perry interviewed S. Emery Archer and I this past Saturday, and I'll share that video in the description section. But something I've talked about, she asked me, well, what about if your community is also in a toxic job and they don't give you the best advice? And that's exactly what you just said, right? So what I mentioned was use discernment. So if anybody ever tells you to stay someplace or stay with someone who is harming you and you know that you are being harmed, then you don't listen to that person. You listen to people who are trying to make sure that you're okay and that you're healing. That's the first thing. The other thing is when you talked about discernment and you talked about getting to that point where you're like, I'm done. So for me, I said this before. I heard the voice of God say to me, if you go back to that job, it's a death sentence. That same day, I resigned. He sent an email, called out some of the people who were bullies. Okay. And I said to them, I don't ever want to come back there again. So you just dispose of all my stuff. I never stepped foot back into that place. Okay. The other thing that you said is this worth it? Is this the life that I want for myself? And I think a lot of times, or particularly during COVID, a lot of people looked at lives like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not what I want, because it became scary about what was happening in the world. And it took a moment to self-reflect. Now, Dr. Cox, you said something about the value of a job. Can you speak more about that?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Let me tell you something. This has been a moment, a moment. And when I tell you, journaling, praying, meditating, having that time where you really are digging into this space, that is so
Mm-hmm.
important, because
Yeah.
I realized that until 2020, my identity was my job.
Ooh.
Like I got a doctorate, everything was about high achievement. It's about a title, it's
Mhm.
about the status. And
Mhm.
that is a white supremacist, patriarchal way of thinking. Like
Absolutely.
that is it. When you think about any
Yeah.
type of work that is
Yep.
part of a system, it is very much like the haves, the have-nots, who
Mhm.
is
Who's
important.
worthy, who's not.
It is. It's a framing, an entire
Yeah.
frame of
Yep.
validation and everything. And I'm like, baby, let me tell you something. I had to do work. I had to do
Mhm.
work where I'm like, you know what? If I never have another position, another title, I'm still a
Mhm.
leader. I'm a leader.
Yes.
And I had to tell
Yes.
myself that, you know what? I don't need the validation of
Nope.
place. I don't have to sell out. I don't have to
No.
be someone I'm not to be
No.
in this space and to be
No.
important. And so that's
No.
another way I'm able to really stay in the space because I
Mhm.
know I'm mouthy, y'all. They're not gonna put me up in front of all the important people. Be like, you don't know what she gonna say. She might say, you know what, y'all suck. Now go and sit down and do some work. Baby, they know that. They know that. And I know that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know that's
Right.
brand. And what an environment would tell me is, Monica, don't call out the leaders. Don't do
Mm.
this. Don't share stuff on
Mhm.
social media. Don't be on that panel because they're monitoring you. Baby, you don't own me. And so,
Yeah.
like, that is so dangerous, but it's not dangerous because if I'm going to be in this space, I'm going to call out the oppression in the space. And so when they see me,
Absolutely.
they like, if anybody's gonna call it out, if anybody's getting cheated in pay, it's gonna be Monica who's gonna say,
Yes.
You're lying and you need to go and learn something." And then I walk
Yes.
away. And I'm like, "Oh, Monica,
Yes.
whatever, whatever." And I remember being in one meeting real quick, and it was a really hostile kind of place. And I remembered saying, "You all would not call out that white man like you called out that black woman." And there was
Mhm.
people there.
Mhm.
And people looked at me off. And I used a DMX quote and I said, "If y'all got a problem with it, meet me outside."
Okay.
5
What did you call
p.m.
DMX?
said, "Meet me outside. If y'all
Right.
about me, meet me outside." And there are some people who may say that's hostile, but let me tell you something. When we get in these spaces,
Mhm.
like, go big or go home.
Mm.
And that's
Yeah.
why you also have your plan, because you ain't afraid. If you say the truth that needs to be said and they're like, "You need to go," guess what? I went out on a high note. I said,
Yeah. Be ready to go.
I'm not afraid of you. And I feel like we
Yeah.
often talk about dismantling, and we think dismantling is going to be like Juneteenth. Like, oh,
Mhm.
something was signed and now every organization is going to be dismantled. No, baby, you know what it is. If you're going to stay in that place and you trying to be about this life, speak
Yeah.
up. It's going
Yeah.
to be calling it out. It's going to be
Yeah.
showing up, being who you need to be, and do that. So I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like there are so many models, and Colette Elizabeth, um, I really I don't know if it's Colette, I don't know if it's your first and last name. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be respectful. I call you both. I'm like Colette Elizabeth. Um, but choose where you are on this continuum and
Mhm.
own it. If
Yeah.
you're gonna be in there and your mindset is that, you know what, I'm gonna make sure nobody else has to ever go through this hell.
Yes.
Will be about that life every day. You put on your armor and you
Yeah.
like, I'm here to work and I'm here to do the work. So this won't
Yeah.
ever happen. But if you're about
Yeah.
to leave, leave too. So I know I'm
Yeah.
going off, but I'm just
Oh, you
saying,
know.
my point is, have a position, own that position,
Mhm.
always have a plan, and be like, you know what? I could sleep well at night because I did what I need to do today.
Yeah. And knowing too, Dr. Cox, that sometimes doing what you feel like you need to do might be time limited. So being within the organization, calling out within the organization, and you talked about something that was so dope. You said, calling out people who are brought into the organization and they're being slaughtered. So they're brought into organizations. Oh, we're such a diverse organization. We believe in anti-racist practices, and they don't. And they are the main perpetrators of racism. So people are brought in and slaughtered. And so you're saying, I'm not going to stand aside and see more people being brought in like you were brought in. I'm not going to see more people being brought in and be slaughtered. That's the one thing. The other thing I just want to emphasize again, I know I just said it. Even if you decide to do this, you do not have to stay there forever. It can be time limited, okay? The part you talked about, not letting the job define you, the job is not who you are. That is what you do. That is not your whole identity. And then you talked about something, Colette Elizabeth, before, and Marissa Price talked about this, that getting one more degree won't save you from the toxicity in a job. A lot of times it puts you more at the focus of so much hostility and people trying to put you in your place and put you down, all that kind of stuff, right? So we get into these because a lot of us were told, we work hard, you'll get that good job and you'll get these different things. But the other part we were not told is that the higher you go up, the more determined some people are to take us down because of the stereotypes they have about Black women. And then I wanted to say that when we look for external validation of job, that is so dangerous. So when again, you define yourself about a job, very dangerous, okay? The part about this is so dangerous is that a lot of times those who are in so-called leadership positions, a lot of times they're not really so about who they know, who they associate with, right? So a lot of the stuff that they are targeting you for, that's a reflection of their own projected incompetence. You are not incompetent. Again, you wouldn't have been there if you didn't have just over the top, on top, what I'm saying? Just you are really on top of your game. But a lot of times those in leadership positions, that's a projected incompetence and they're trying to put it on you. Okay, we have to reject that. Okay. So as we're winding down, I'm going to read the chat and then I want us to close with both of you talking about services or products that you have to support the healing of Black women in toxic jobs. Okay. So people are saying it's truly a tough decision. It truly is. That's what we've talked about today. I know that it has been because I went through it. Good for you, Dr. Cox. So many lack the courage to speak up due to their fear of economic repercussions. Yes. Those stresses truly do manifest through your health. It's unknown until we pause and pay attention. So true. Finances and where to go from here is my main concern. How to monetize my skills and abilities is my focus now. So, sis, I just want to share with you that Emery Archer and I are coming out with a masterclass, which I'll put the early registration link. And it is a masterclass, it's a 2-part masterclass focusing on save yourself, channel your inner Harriet, so that you can leave that toxic hustle job with your sanity and your coins. So, sis, that sounds like a good opportunity for you in terms of really addressing those issues you just talked about. Okay. I can completely relate to that. Good for you for standing up for yourself. Good for you for leaving. And look at you now. Let me see. That's so powerful, Dr. Cox. Dr. Cox, it is powerful to be a liaison for others and help us Black women manage the dynamics in the workforce. Amen to being your authentic self at work. That's powerful. Yes, be you. I'm here for this. We should show up as our authentic self. Once I did this, it was liberating. That's so true, Dr. Kamani. Most of the time, the highly effective, exceeds expectations employees. Yes, you preaching, Queen of Colette. Facts, Colette, no room for error. At the top are credentials and expertise. Yes, look up the information to use for yourself. Okay, let me see. Talks about, let me see. Okay, yes, Dr. Kamani, Dr. Cox, we have to dig deeper in honor of our ancestors and for our future selves. They will operate on fear. So in workplaces, yes, they have that fear element. Somebody said amnesia, but their amnesia kicks in. I think knowing our greatness and talking about our greatness, weaponize their own DEI policies against them. If they say we have to speak up policy, and then you get to speak up, and then you get retaliated, document everything, and even the retaliation email. Even if they still let you go, it puts you in a better position for negotiating your payout. I think they bet that fear will take over and that you don't have any options. So true, right? And then even asking for help is deemed incompetent. So they may say to you, and I know I experienced this, where they it's like this, they don't give you clear direction. It's like very gray. And when you ask for clarification, they're like, oh, see, but you're like, I'm just trying to ask what you're trying to do, right? So again, that projected incompetence. And yes, the message that we get in many of these jobs is, as Dr. Cox said, no matter what we do, you are never good enough at these jobs, right? They'll send you the message, no matter what you do, you're never good enough. Reject that lie. That is not true. That is not true. Okay. So as we're winding down, I want for both of you to talk about products and services that you have to support the healing of Black women. So we'll start with you, Colette Elizabeth.
Yes, I want to say one thing too. I just want to make sure that Black women understand that this is not you. This is not about you. A lot of these places, they do not have the capacity to carry or recognize your brilliance.
Right.
It's just what it is, and you do not dumb down, do not play down
don't dim your light.
Dim your light, to make people feel comfortable with your brilliance. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. But I have a YouTube channel by the same name, Colette Elizabeth, and that is my first and middle name, Dr. Cox. So yes, it's Colette Elizabeth. And I talk to Black women. I create a safe space. We talk about everything. Started off talking about toxic jobs, but we talk about everything. We have heart to hearts. I've introduced a series about teaching our own history, which I really enjoy doing. I'm learning a lot. I got the idea from my sister Harriet here, so I'm pretty excited about it. I put all of my services on pause as I am still healing, and I am enjoying my healing process. And when I am ready to open up my services, then I will let people know on my YouTube channel. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Colette Elizabeth, Harriet. What about you, Dr. Monica Cox?
Hey, so I am really doing a lot when it comes to equity at work, like equity assessments, also some consulting, because I want to get into organizations and help with the infrastructure, with the policies, with the processes, and making sure that we are redefining what those look like. So that's one thing that I'm doing. But I also offer VIP days for people who would like personalized sessions with me. And I can engage with a variety of topics, but I really help people unpack some of the things that they're going through and help them to get unstuck as it relates to like almost any topic, whether it's leadership or something related to work, etc. And I have a lot of products at drmonicacox.com, and you can contact me on all social media platforms at Dr. Monica Cox. Oh, and I have a podcast that comes out every week called Stop Playing Diversity with Dr. Monica Cox. Really short nuggets, affirmations, about 10 minutes. But I'm up to about almost 70 episodes right now. So there should be something on there if you are interested in just listening and hearing more about Little Nuggets. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. And Dr. Cox, don't you have the Accomplice Academy?
Oh, yes. You know what? I'm doing so much. I told you my CTO is helping me. So yes, I am launching this new thing called the Accomplice Academy, and it's really helping people to do the work. It's funny because some people will say, like, as a Black woman, why am I doing this? It's because I get tired of people claiming they're allies and they suck wind at it. And so we don't have real talk with people who want to know how to get into the workplace, and they have positions of power. And it's like, this is how you stop harming Black folk.
Yes.
So they're telling them the truth. They're paying me to tell them the truth so they can actually go beyond training at work.
Yes. At the checkoff training, right?
Stop. No, stop. Leave at the door.
Right. And I think you made this quote, Monica, about you cannot call yourself an ally if I don't call you an ally.
Absolutely. I always say that.
You have all these self-appointed allies, right?
They love, people love being like, I'm an ally and I love this and I read some books. I was like, baby, you know what? You hadn't even stepped foot anywhere and I hadn't even seen you open your mouth. So you are not an ally. Please stop.
No. Exactly. So you're talking about how to take allyship to true allyship in terms of putting in the work, not just reading a book or saying you're an ally, right?
Accomplishship. And so I'm intense about it. It is not profiting. It is not crying. It is actually rolling your sleeves up, being the first one in the room and taking the bullets if they come flying so I don't have to take it. That's what it is. Right. You're my accomplice. Go get it.
Right. Okay. So as we're winding down, I just have a few announcements. Number one, as I mentioned before, Anne Marie Archer and I were interviewed by Stephanie Perry talking about our masterclass is coming out. Actually, the early registration is launching now. And the masterclass is Save Yourself, Channel Your Inner Harriet, so that you can leave that toxic hostile job with your sanity and your coins. So again, I will put the early registration link in the description section. Please note that we only have a limited number of slots, and once those slots are filled, then you can have the replay, okay? But you won't be a part of the live. The other thing is that you will see Colette Elizabeth, Stephanie Perry, Alicia Renice, Glamazzini, and Terry from Happy Girl Alaska and Afroflow Yoga on a panel that we're talking about with joy, Black women in joy, which is this Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, and 5:30 Pacific time. So take note of that. And then Dr. Monica Cox, we're going to have an international Stop Playing Diversity panel. And that's going to be June 9th. Okay. I think that's noon Eastern time. So noon Eastern, 11 Central, 9 Pacific time. So keep an eye out for that as well. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. Please support Colette Elizabeth, her YouTube channel, and all that Dr. Monica Cox has to offer on her website and also her social media platforms. And again, if you have not already subscribed to my channel, Lifting As We Climb Consulting Wellness Services, please do so, okay? And again, look out for the early registration link that I talked about with the masterclass, right? And one last comment was, I'll ask you three last. This was a great session, a reminder that we are not alone in the process. I love this collaboration. Didn't know LinkedIn did live. Agreed, never let anyone dim your light, regardless of diversity. How to let your light shine bright. Lisa Nichols, inspiring women of Gold Coast MSW grad students seeing this. Can't wait to see more and hear more of you, Colette. Okay, so I want to say to everyone, good night, and thank you for tuning in. And again, please share this video with other Black women. And I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday as we talk about Black women in joy and how we can connect to our joy. Okay, so have a good night. If Dr. Cox and Colette, if you could just stay on for a moment, okay? Good night.